Hello, welcome back to the Top Shelf, the literary edition. This is episode 50. Thank you for hanging in this long. I hope you've been enjoying the series, and welcome to the new conceit. No longer in the hoodie. I'm in actually what spells literary more than a tweed jacket. It's brand new. Just got it. Something new for the new year. Setup's the same. Get up has changed. My name is Ernest Whiteman III. I'm a Northern Ramapo filmmaker, artist, writer, and media educator, and I'm sharing the top shelf of my book collection with you. I have a pre-selected book. I'll give you a synopsis, short review, and a reason why I purchased the edition, but that's my typical shtick. But today, since for the 50th episode, I thought I'd do a quick rundown, just a quick rundown of my top 10 all-time favorite books, because I've decided to cap this show at 100 episodes, because that's the extent of my book collection. But the last 10 episodes will be regular episodes of individual books that you're about to hear. So thank you for joining me, and let's get started. I got my notes here, so I'll be looking down from time to time. Number 10 on my all-time favorite book list is Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. This is the first introduction of the character of Hannibal Lecter and the character of Will Graham. And people who've seen the movies Manhunter or Red Dragon, the adaptations, I don't think any of the adaptations, including the Hannibal TV series, have done a good job at conveying the talent of Will Graham. And a lot of this was, when Harris wrote this, it was an early development of the Criminal Behavior Institutes, or studies of criminal behaviors. And so John Douglas was there at the beginning. He helped them sort of flesh out what profiling was. But the way Harris writes Will Graham is that it's sort of a preternatural thing that happens with him. He can almost instinctively think like a serial killer. And that's to his mental detriment. And that's something that I think is lost on all of the, in the adaptation. So that's, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'll get more into depth as we get to the last episodes and I run through my top 10. Number 9, believe it or not, is The Last Temptation of Christ by Nikos Kazantzakis. I read that book a long time ago while I was in college, and many people had differing opinions as they saw me reading it. They were either very interested in it or they hated the book without reading it. And it's not as sacrilege as people think it is. It's not even based on the Gospels. But it is this interesting study into the psychosis of a man who is half God. So that's what I found most interesting about it. Sitting at number 8 is Invisible Natives by Armando José Prats, Myth and Identity in American Western. Now this has informed me a lot in my perspectives on Native American representation in medias, especially, most particularly in contemporary representations as it pertains to the revisionist westerns like Hell or High Water or Wind River and the like. Number 7 is American Indian Stories by Zitkála-Šá, who's Yankton Sioux, and this is at the turn of the century writing. She goes on to become a teacher, but this is about her writings from her early life, living with her mother up to the time she started to teach. So very interesting, and it's number 7. Number 6 is The Legend of the Condor Heroes, the U.S. Prince by Yong, also known as Louis Cha, which is the adaptation of the serialized story of the Condor Heroes. This one really caught me, really swept me up in the story and its teachings, or not its teachings, but its different forms of martial arts and kung fu, and just the daring do of all of the heroes and the villains, and that's I'll go more into that. And then now that we're at the halfway point, let's talk about what really catches my interest when it comes to what is my favorite books. Well, these are books that not only fall into many different categories and genres, but books that I've come to reread, or if I have not reread them, I have continually not stopped thinking about them. And American Indian Stories is one of those books that I can't stop thinking about, and it makes me very interested in rereading it. The Last Temptation of Christ, of course, is a book I've only read once, but it really hit hard with an impact when it came to my own faith. But though I only read that once, I haven't stopped thinking about it since, and particularly how these two books sort of influence my own storytelling. So coming up at number 5 is the Goon Saga, the Japanese serial. This is the U.S. imprint of the Marches episode, wherein the introduction of the character Guin, the lion-headed warrior, or the leper-headed warrior, and the twins of Paros. And it's written by a Japanese writer, a woman, who serialized it over 100 episodes in her lifetime. And this is only about the first 5 episodes. So the Goon Saga goes beyond the U.S. prints. But it captured me from the start because it wasn't your typical Japanese storytelling. It was actually set in a medieval sort of Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones, where it actually flips that, where in a world full of magic and magical creatures, there's this tiniest thread of technology coming through. And that's what really interested me about it. Plus, Guin is just a really cool character. Number 4 is It's Superman by Tom Dehaven, set in the 1930s during the Depression, and what it would have been like in Depression-era Kansas, where if Clark grew up in that era and came out to be Superman. And it's a very interesting take. It's one I really appreciate because it humanizes him more than anything that I have read on Superman outside of All-Star Superman. And another book that has really influenced my own writing. Number 3 is the seminal Fahrenheit 451. I read that back in by Bradbury. Let me get the author of the Goon Saga. Is Kurimoto. And for It's Superman, I said Tom Dehaven. Number 3 is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. It's a book I read that we had to read, required reading in high school, but I just loved the idea of it. Introduced me to the concepts of not only governmental censorship, but information overload, and the act of reading being banned, though books are not banned, they are burned because they incite emotional responses. And so that became a very watershed book for me, in that it started to make me think about things such as censorship and governmental control and how the media manipulates those things. And all is that and about a story about a fireman who sets fires. So let's get on to number 2. Number 2 is The Journey of Crazy Horse by Joseph M. Marshall III. Probably my pick, hands down, for the best biography of the Shomkowitko, also known as Crazy Horse. Marshall is Lakota himself, and his grandfathers were contemporaries of the people of Crazy Horse's generation, and so they passed down these stories, and it's a great example of the authorship of expertise versus practical lived experience. And I'll get more into that as we go through the review of the book. And my number 1 book of all time is Three Kingdoms by Luo Guanzhong, or Guanzhong Luo. Written, I believe, in the 14th century, about the 3rd century or 2nd century Chinese history. when the kingdom, or when China was broken into three kingdoms, the Shu Han, the Wei, and the Wu, and how the continual civil wars just elevated a bunch of warlords and prime ministers to power. And there's I particularly like the Moss Roberts translations, because he actually does away with the title romance of the three kingdoms, because he thinks romance ties it too much to mythology, when a lot of the mythological storytelling is grounded in reality. So he always titles his adaptations Three Kingdoms. Your mileage may vary. I have several copies of this story. I've enjoyed it from the time I learned about it, and I'll go into that when I do a deep dive on it, because I have a script written for that, and you can see it over my shoulder, my preferred edition, and it's taught me many things about storytelling and about myself, and I've been in continual reading of it from 2008. Whenever I finish whatever edition I'm reading, I pick up another edition and start to read that, or I just turn back to page one and start reading it over again. And I've been doing that continually since 2008. So for 12 years now, I have been in non-stop reading of Three Kingdoms. And that's it for my top 10 list. We'll go through a quick review of them. Number 10, Red Dragon. Number 9, The Last Temptation of Christ. Number 8, Invisible Natives. Number 7, American Indian Stories. Number 6, Legend of the Condor Heroes. Number 5, The Goon Saga. Number 4, It's Superman. Number 3, Fahrenheit 451. Number 2, The Journey of Crazy Horse. And number 1, Three Kingdoms. Now I have planned deeper dives for 3 of the books. And that is for The Journey of Crazy Horse. Again, I already have a script written. For Three Kingdoms, I have a script written, and I will be doing another deeper dive on Go Set a Watchman by Harper Lee. So look forward to those. Like I said, I'm going to cap this series at 100 episodes even, and the last 10 episodes will be episode 91 through 100 will be a deeper reviews of my top 10 books. I hope you've enjoyed this and hearing about this and seeing what my absolute favorite books are, seeing where my interests lie. But thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.